Hello everybody and welcome to my presentation. My name is Alex Saladay and today I will be discussing the expanded use of pentatonicism in Antonín Dvořák's Opus 91 in Nature's Realm. First though, I'll begin with what might seem to be a simple question. What is pentatonicism? Of course, it could be most easily described as the use of the pentatonic scale and/or the pentatonic tonal system within a composition. Usually, when discussing the pentatonic scale, people are referring to the collection 02479 or any transposition of, which can be thought of as a scale with whole tone and minor third steps, or more simply as a major scale lacking scale degrees 4 and 7. But what does it actually mean to use the pentatonic tonal system? Would simply restricting oneself to these 5 pitches be enough to produce something pentatonic? Surely if one were writing a diatonic melody, it wouldn't be enough to merely include all 7 pitches. There are tonal hierarchies and relationships that require attention. Why wouldn't then the same be said for pentatonic melodies and pentatonic tonal systems, which have been used in cultures across the world for thousands of years? One of the common misconceptions about the pentatonic system is that it lacks tonality, possibly because of the way in which it's introduced to musicians in the music curriculum. In many curriculums, the pentatonic tonal system is saved for 4th semester music theory courses, many times alongside similarly named scales. The general trend associated with 20th century music theory is a movement away from tonality, such as with symmetric hexatonic and octatonic scales. Unfortunately, pentatonicism is thrown into the mix as a system that seems to prioritize perfect intervals over familiar triadic harmonies built on imperfect intervals that we find in diatonicism. Really though, the pentatonic tonal system is an entire system within itself that possesses different hierarchies and tonal relationships. Popular examples of pentatonicism in Western art music can be found in the music of Debussy. As a familiar composer to most musicians, these examples would seem well suited for the introduction of pentatonic ideas. However, Jeremy Day O'Connell describes Debussy as a user of radical pentatonicism, specifically talking about his work Pagode, arguing that it does not keep salient aspects of tonality intact, such as the relationship of dissonance and consonance. I wonder then if Debussy's non-tonal utilization of pentatonic scales is the best representation of pentatonicism on the whole, which is found across the world, or if it's even representative of the broader use of pentatonicism within Western art music. Surely it demonstrates one method by which it can be used, but I think that prioritizing Debussy's pentatonic style might mistakenly suggest a historical narrative to our students in which the pentatonic comes after diatonic. Again, I come back to the pentatonicism present in folk songs around the world, in which its use is certainly tonal. One composer known for his use of pentatonicism and his deep understanding of folk music is the Czech composer Antonín Dvořák. The rest of this presentation will be a few examples from my analysis of Dvořák's expanded pentatonicism in his 1891 concert overture In Nature's Realm. In Nature's Realm is an orchestral work featuring both diatonic and pentatonic themes. It does not in any way attempt to use the pentatonic tonal system in a strict way, but instead as an expressive melodic device. In this presentation, I will first be discussing the formal structure of the work, highlighting the presence of pentatonicism across the overture. I will then continue with a look at Dvořák's pentatonic nature theme and an instance of smooth pentatonic modulation. Following that, I will be showing examples of how Dvořák uses diatonic harmonies beneath pentatonic melodies. I will show how he gradually incorporates diatonic scale degrees into pentatonic textures, and I will show how he is able to alter pentatonic themes chromatically while maintaining their pentatonic character. The overall formal structure of the overture is similar to that of sonata form, with a clear exposition, development, and recapitulation, which are all rather proportional to each other, especially the exposition and recapitulation being the same number of measures, give or take 1. One major difference here that I cannot ignore is the harmonic shift to major 3, which is certainly unexpected for standard sonata form. Despite this odd modulation, it is eventually corrected in the recapitulation back to F, as one would expect with sonata form. The other major difference here is the insertion of a nature theme labeled N, which is entirely pentatonic. Used in the intro, outro, development, and even the transitions throughout the work, it can be easily identified as the true primary melodic idea that one would walk away from humming. Here I have colored all of the pentatonic themes green, which includes the nature theme as well as two other short, less prominent themes, P2 and S1. This diagram alone is indicative of the significance that the pentatonic scale has here, certainly with its use in both the opening and closing. Let's now look more closely at the nature theme itself. Introduced in measure 21 by a solo clarinet, the simplistic nature theme sings over an F major harmony, moving mostly stepwise within the F pentatonic scale. The opening oscillates between scale degrees 5 and 3, emphasizing that pentatonic gap and providing the melody with some of what David Beveridge would refer to as, quote, the pentatonic feeling. However, on the final note of the melody, the upper strings introduce a foreign E flat, turning the chord into a dominant seventh of the subdominant B flat. As expected, that quickly allows for a modulation to B flat major. However, melodically, the shift is subtle. I argue that while the underlying harmonies have transitioned to B flat major by this point, the melody here, now played by the oboe, seems to still fit well within the F pentatonic scale, this time emphasizing the pentatonic gap between 1 and 6. It is not until the B flat in measure 27, marked in blue, that one can confidently place the melody in B flat pentatonic, and it is then at this point that the actual modulation is confirmed. I will now play a recording beginning in measure 21. This next example shows theme P2, introduced again by a solo clarinet, all within an F pentatonic scale. The accompanying harmonies here oscillate between major 1 and minor 2/6, with scale degree 4 B flat in the second bassoon part. As part of the background harmonic support, though, the diatonic B flat doesn't actually distract from the pentatonic quality of the focal melody, and this plagal-like motion is also something frequently associated with pentatonicism. However, in response to the theme, upper strings and oboes perform complementary counter themes. Here again, the B flat is included, this time more prominently, but still only on weak beats with short values and as embellishments. After a repeated 4 bars, this subsection continues with an altered variation on the counter theme. The original P2 theme seems somewhat absent in measures 89 and 90, and the focus is shifted to the solo bassoon alternating degrees 3 and 2, over a very soft string accompaniment, now including a subtle scale degree 7. Measure 91 features what David Beveridge calls the fresh note principle. Here, the B flat is included again, but for the first time on an accented beat. Beveridge says that this is because of the so-called gaps in the pentatonic scale. A Western listener is left with the sense of desire and longing for scalar completion, and the eventual inclusion of a diatonic pitch at a structurally significant moment provides a refreshing quality. Dvořák here takes advantage of the Western listener's musical expectations and even heightens them further with a root position subdominant triad underneath. I will now play a recording beginning in measure 81. The nature theme returns in the development section, but with chromatic alterations. In measure 220, the flutes begin what would seem like the nature theme in D pentatonic, although strangely as a part of a B7 added flat 9 harmony. In measure 222, the melody directly breaks from the previously pentatonic melody with a metrically accented G sharp followed by a quick ascent to C natural, both of which are outside of what is expected. However, despite this no longer being pentatonic, by this point in the piece, the melodic gesture and melody is so easily recognized and so closely associated with the pentatonic feeling that I don't actually think that its pentatonic character and quality is entirely lost due to a few altered pitches. These 4 bars serve as an elaboration of the B dominant harmony, continued for an additional 3 bars afterwards, leading to the expected E major. In measure 227, the nature theme starts again, fitting entirely within E pentatonic over an E major harmony. Despite there being no minor seventh in measure 230, E major is then again retroactively understood as an applied dominant chord leading to A. Immediately after, the nature theme is heard yet again, but now with altered scale degrees. Within A minor, the theme covers the same scale degree numbers as the original theme, but the third and sixth degrees are lowered by a half step. This gives the melody that minor quality associated with flat 3 and flat 6 and the Aeolian mode in general, while again maintaining the pentatonic character that has been tied to the nature theme, despite it not fitting entirely and nicely into the A pentatonic scale. With the previous three examples reduced even further to this example here, I will now play a recording which begins in measure 220. I began this presentation by questioning a common perception of pentatonicism, that it is primarily part of the late 19th and early 20th century trend away from tonality, commonly represented by Debussy's compositions, which, as mentioned before, might be considered radical pentatonicism. Instead, I argue that pentatonicism can be better understood as an expressive melodic device, which can be smoothly interweaved with diatonicism, as I have shown. But I have demonstrated only some of the ways in which Dvořák utilizes pentatonicism in this overture and in his works in general, some of which are well known for their pentatonic themes that originate from folk music. As a less studied composer whose works I plan on exploring further, I think that Dvořák's use of melodic pentatonicism is yet to be fully understood. Studying his music may allow us to understand his personal perception of the pentatonic tonal system in relationship to diatonicism, two systems with which he was very familiar. Being that he had immersed himself in the folk music of different cultures that prioritize pentatonic melodies, studying his music may then also help us to understand how these cultures treated tonal relationships within the pentatonic tonal system, which have a perspective unbiased to diatonic tonality. Finally, I believe that the perception of the pentatonic scale as some sort of strict system consisting of 5 pitches is actually detrimental to its future study. Even in folk music, pentatonic systems aren't used strictly, but rather serve as a foundation for greater musical elaboration. While the differences between diatonic and pentatonic melodies are not all too drastic, a shifted perspective of what pentatonicism actually is may be useful in studying music by other composers from around Dvořák's time, many of which were also influenced by pentatonic folk music, and it may also be useful in studying folk music itself and understanding how to accurately categorize and describe folk music and folk songs and what tonalities they fit into. Thank you for watching my presentation, and thank you to the organizers of the University of Connecticut Graduate Music Conference for working hard to make this online conference possible. I welcome anybody viewing this to post questions and comments or to reach out via email to continue this discussion further. Thank you.